samsaradava nalalira loka tranaya karuna gona ganatvam praptasya kayana gunanavasya vande guru shri charanaravinda Mahaprabhu kirtana nitya gita vaditra madhyan manasorasena
Mahaprabhu kirtana nitya gita vaditra madhyan manasorasena
Romancha kampa shutaranga bhajo vande guru shri charanaravinda
Romancha kampa shutaranga bhajo vande guru shri charanaravinda
Shri Vigrahara Nityananam Shingarathan Mandiramarjanado
Sivigara Nityananam Shingarathan Mandiramarjanado
Yuktasya Bhaktam Saniyunjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda
Gopi Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda
Chaturvida Shri Bhagavat Prasado Swadana Triptan Hari Bhaksha Sangram
Chaturveda Shri Bhagavad Prasada Satpana Triptan Hari Bhakta Sangha
Kritraiva Triptim Bhajata Sadaiva Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda
Kritraiva Triptim Bhajata Sadaiva Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda
Shri Radhika Madhavayora Bhara Madhurya Leela Gunarupa Namna
Shri Radhika Madhavayora Bhara Madhurya Leela Gunarupa Namna
Pratikshana Svadanalolupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda
Pratikshana Svadanalupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda
Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda
Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda
Nikunjayono Rathikeli Sedhai Yayali Bir Yukti Rapekshaniya
Nikunjayono Rathikeli Sedhai Yayali Bir Yukti Rapekshaniya
Tatrati daksha ativalabhasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Tatrati daksha ativalabhasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Sakshadarit vina samasta shastre Uktastatha bhayate vasari
Sakshadari vina samasta shastre Roktattatava gataiva sadhi
Kinto pravorya priya eva tasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Kinto prabodja priyavatasa Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda
Yasya prasada bhagavat prasado Yasya prasada nagati katopi
Yasha prasada bhagavat prasada Yasya prasada nagati kutapi
Jayam stuvam stasa yasa trisadyam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Jayam Subham Tasya Yasati Sandhya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Saminiti Namine
Namaste Saraswate Deve
Prabhupada
Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavari Paschatya Deshatarine
Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavari Pachatari Satarine
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Chaitanya
Chaitanya
Prabhu Nityananda
Nityananda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Chaitanya
Prabhu Nityananda
Nityananda
Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Chaitanya
Prabhu Nityananda
Nityananda
Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna
Krishna
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare
Hare Hare
Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna
Krishna
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare.
Jaya Radha Nila Madhava Radha Nila Madhava Radhe.
Jaya Radha Nila Madhava Radha Nila Madhava Radhe.
Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Shri Radhe.
Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Shri Radhe.
Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Jagannatha
Mata Jaya Jaladeka Baladeva Jaya Subhaga
Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Sitaram, Jaya Lakshman Hanuman.
Jaya Sitaram Jaya Sitaram Jaya Sitaram Lakshman
Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha.
Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha
Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai.
Jaya Gauranita Gauranita Jaya Gauranita Jaya Gauranita
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada
Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva.
Jaya Gurudeva Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol,
Nitai Gaura Diva
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Jai Vishnu Paraparamsa Prabha Jakacharya Stuttara Sarasishri Maharaj Divine Grace Abhachar Vina Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Pratishtha Bhiviti Samstavakacharya Vaishnava Siromani Patit Pavana Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Shri Gauriya Guru Varga Patit Udhar Ki Jai Shri Rup Sanatan Bhata Raghunath Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Guna Sat Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ji Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrind Ki Jai प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री गदाधर शिवासरि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय जय परम दयाल श्री नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय प्रेम नाम संकीर्तन एक जनाक प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम श्री सचिनंदन स्मन गौरंग चैतन्य महाप्रभु गौर हरि मावरनाय अवतार की जय गोलोकेर प्रमधान हरिनाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की जय जुग धर्म हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय प्रिय निदांग ट्रांसलेंट बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सेवा की जय शिष्य राधा कृष्ण गोप गोविंद राधा कुंज सम कुंज गिरिराज गोवर्धन की जय श्री ब्रजभूमि वृंदावन मथुर धाम की जय दिलो श्री रानील माधव की जय श्री मायापुर नवद्वीप एक चक्र धाम की जय परम करुण श्री गौर निताय की जय श्री पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी बलदेव प्रभु सुभद्रा देवी सुदर्शन चक्र भगवान की जय भक्ति सर्व विघ्न अविनाशना कनिष्ठ भगवान की जय भगवान सीताराम लक्ष्मण भक्त हनुमान जी की जय गंगा माई जमुना माई की जय तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी भक्ति देवी की जय श्री मथुरा रानी की जय श्री कदचिति की जय समवेत भक्त बिंद की जय गौरी प्रमानंदे हरिभो all glories to the assembled bodies all glories to the assembled bodies all glories to the assembled bodies all glories all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga Mission.
Namaste Narasimhaya प्रहलादलाददायिने हिरण्यकाशीपूर्वक्षः
हिरण्यकाशीपूर्वक्षः
श्रीलताङ्कानकालाय
जय श्रीलताङ्कानकालाय
इतो नरसिंह परतो नरसिंह
पीतो नृसिंह परतो नृसिंह
यतो यतो यामि ततो नरसिंह
जत जत गामि तत नृसिंह
बाहिर्नरसिंह हृदये नरसिंह
बाहिर्नृसिंह हृदये नृसिंह
नरसिंहमदिं शरणां प्रपदे
नरसिंहमदिं शरणं प्रपद्ये
तव करकमलवरेणाका अद्भुतसिंहा दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तानुभृङ्गा केशवदीता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे
तव कर कमल बले नाका अद्भुत सिंह दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनभृङ्गा केशवदीता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश रे
जय नरसिंहदेव 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 जय नरसिंहदेव
नृसिंहदेव जय नृसिंहदेव नृसिंहदेव जय नृसिंहदेव
जय प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज
जय प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज
जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद
जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद
जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव
गुरुदेव गुरुदेव जय जय गुरुदेव श्रीमती तुलसी महाराज श्री भक्ति सब विनाशना कानुसिंहदेव भगवान की जय भक्त श्रेष्ठ प्रहलाद महाराज की जय पूरे प्रमाण श्री वृंदाई तुलसी देवाई प्रिय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रादे देवी सतवताय नमो नमः वृंदाई तुलसी देवाई प्रिय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रादे देवी सतवताय नमो नमः वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रदे देवी सतवतय नमो नमः। श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय।
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः।
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः।
राधा कृष्ण सेवा पाबो अभिलाषी
राधा कृष्ण सेवा को अभिलाषी
राधा कृष्ण सेवा पाबो अभिलाषी
राधा कृष्ण सेवा पाबो अभिलाषी।
ये तुम्हारा शरण लोय तारा वंश पूर्ण होय।
जे तुम्हारा शरण लो तार वंश पूर्ण।
कृपा कोरी कोरो तारे वृंदावन बासी।
तुम्हें कृपा करी कर तारे वृंदावन बासी।
मोरा ये अभिलाष विलास कुंज दियो
मोरा ये अभिलाष विलास कुंज दियो
नयने हेरी बो सदा युगल रूपरासी।
अमिनायाने हरि बोसदा युगल रूपरासी।
हे निवेदन दारो सखीरानुगाता कोरो।
हे निवेदन दारो सखीरानुगाता कोरो।
सेवाधिकारा दिए कोरो निज दासी।
सेवायादि करो दिए करो निज दासी।
दीना कृष्ण दासे कोई न मोरा होय।
दीना कृष्ण दास कोई न मोरा।
दीना कृष्ण दासे कोई न मोरा होय।
दीना कृष्ण दास कोई हे नमो राम
श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदा येन बासी
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 यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणपादे पदे
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणपादे पदे
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणपादे पदे
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणपदे पदे
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
जय तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी
जय तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी
जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी
जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी
निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल
निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल श्री वृंदाई तुलसी देवाय पियाय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति परिदेव सतवत्तय नमो नमः वृंदाई तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति परिदेव सतवत्तय नमो नमः वृंदाई तुलसी देवाय Priya Kesava Sata Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavatai Namo Namo. Srimati Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki Jai. O Tulsi, beloved Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire to obtain the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you has wishes fulfilled. Bestow your mercy upon him, you make him resident of Vrindavan. My desire is that you also give me a residence in pleasure groves of Shri Vrindavan Dham. Thus, within my vision, I will always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower of Kavita Emissaries of Raj. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maid-servant, this very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna praise. May I always swim in love. Shri Radha Govinda. Srimati Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sikhastakam ki Jai. Chito Darpanam Majanam Bhavadavaniva Shri Akari Vachandika Vitaranam Vidyabalu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivadhanam Pratipadam Punam Sadhanam Sarvatmasnam Param Paradaki Shri Krishna Nama Bhakti Bhutanda Saraswati Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Kestakam ki Jai. Namo Mahavarannaya Krishna Prema Pradaya. Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the prior conditional life for repeated birth. The Sankirtan moment is the prime benediction for humanity at large. God is praised the rays of the benediction moon. It's the light of all transcendental knowledge. I think this is the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we're always anxious. Oh my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings. And thus you have hundreds, millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested your transcendental energies. There's not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy name. But I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. Once you chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself Lord and soul in the street, one should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O son of Maharajananda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other I have fallen in this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at the lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes will be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy names? When will my voice choke up? When will the hairs on my body stand on end at the recitation of your holy name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I consider the moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I feel all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he should remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shri 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 Kristakam Ki Jai. There are 10 offenses in matter of chanting holy name that must be avoided. They are as follows. 1. Blasphemous devotees who dedicate a life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. Consider names of demigods our Lord Shiva to be equal to or independent of the Lord Shiva. 3. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4. Blaspheme the Vedic literature or literatures and pursuits of Vedic version. 5. To consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6. To give some interpretation on the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. 8. To consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in Vedas as fruitive activity, karma kanda. 9. To instruct the fearless person by the glories of holy name. And 10. To not have complete faith in chanting the holy names and to maintain material attachments, even after understanding so many instructions in this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must carefully guard against these offenses in order to quickly achieve desired success. Krishna. Now let us offer our respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnavas, devoted with the Lord. They are just like desired trees. They can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they're full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls.
Srimad Bhagavatam comes to knowledge.
Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Janmadhyasya tam vayaritartas chatye swabhigya swara. Tinna brahma rudaya adhika vaye mo jantija suraya. Tejo varimnida jata vinimayo jatra trisargo mrisya. Dhamna svena sada nirasta kuhakam satyang param dhimahi.
O my Lord, Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva.
O my Lord, Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva.
O all-pervading personality of Godhead.
O all-pervading personality of Godhead.
For my respectful obeisances unto you.
Offer my respectful blessings unto you.
I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth.
I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth.
And the primeval cause of all causes.
And the primeval cause of all causes.
Of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of manifested universes.
Of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of manifested universe.
He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations.
He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations.
And he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him.
And he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him.
It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji.
It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji.
The original living being.
The original living being.
By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion.
By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion.
As one is bewildered by the illusory representations
as one is bewildered by the illusory
of water seen on
representations
fire or land seen on water.
of water seen on fire, land seen on water.
Only because of him do the material universes,
Only because of him do the material universes,
temporarily manifested by the reaction to the three modes of nature,
temporarily manifested by the reaction of the three modes of nature,
appear factual although they are unreal.
appear factual, although they are unreal.
Therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna,
Therefore, meditate upon him, Lord Shri
who
Krishna,
is eternally existent in the transcendental abode,
who is eternally existent in the transcendental
which is
abode,
forever free from the illusory representations of the material world.
which is forever free from the illusory representation of the material world.
I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth.
I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth.
Dharma projita kaitravocha
Dharma prajita kaitavotra,
paramo nivatsaranam satam
paramo nirmasaranam satam,
vedyam vastavam atravastu
vedyam vastavam astravastu,
vedam tapa trayon muranam
shivadam taputrayamalanam,
Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite
Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite,
Kim Vaparir Ishwaraha
Kimva Paririshvaraha,
Sadyo Hridi Avarudyatetra
Sadyurudya Varidyatita,
Kriti Bhisusubhistakshanat,
Kritibhi Shushubhistarkyanat,
completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated.
completely rejecting all religious activities which are material
This
motivated.
Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth,
This Bhagavad Puran propounds the high truth,
which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart.
which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in
The
the heart.
highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all.
The high truth, the reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all.
Such truth uproots the threefold miseries.
Such truth uproots the twofold miseries.
This beautiful Bhagavatam compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity
This is a beautiful Bhagavatam compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity.
is sufficient in itself for God realization.
It's sufficient itself for God realization.
What is the need of any other scripture?
What is the need of the other
As
scripture?
soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam,
As soon as one attentively, submissively hears the message of
by
Bhagavatam,
this culture of knowledge,
by this culture of
the
knowledge,
Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
the Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
Nigama kalpataro galitam phalam,
Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam,
sukamukad amrita dravya sangitam,
sukam karmridatrava sangitam,
pibata Bhagavatam rasam alayam,
pibata bhagavatam rasamalayam,
mahur ahoraska bhuvibhavakaha.
mura ho rasika bhurivavaka.
O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam,
O expert and thoughtful man, relish Srimad
the
Bhagavatam,
mature fruit of the desire to Vedic
the
literatures.
mature fruit, the desired tree of Vedic
It
literature.
emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami.
It emanated from the lips of Shishugadeva Goswami.
Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful.
Therefore, this fruit has become even more
Although
tasteful.
its nectarian juice was already relishable for all,
Although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all,
including liberated souls.
including liberated souls.
Shinvatam Swakata Krishna,
Shambhatam Swakata Krishna,
Punya Shravana Kirtana,
Punya Shravana Kirtana,
Hiryantaksto Hiyapadrani,
Vidyantasto Hiyabhadrani,
Vidunoti Suhitsatam.
Vidunoti Surit Satam.
To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures,
To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures,
or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita,
or to hear from it directly through the Bhagavad Gita,
is itself righteous activity.
it is self-righteous activity.
And for one who hears about Krishna,
And for who hears about Krishna,
Lord Krishna is dwelling in everyone's heart,
Lord Krishna is dwelling within everyone's heart,
acts as a best wishing friend,
acts as the best wishing
and
friend,
purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him.
and purifies the devotee who is constantly engaged in hearing with him.
Nasta presu abhadresu
Nasta Praishva Bhadreshu
nityam bhagavata sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
bhagavati uttamasloke
Bhagavati Uttamasloki
bhaktir bhavati naistaki.
Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki.
In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge.
In this way, the devotee naturally develop dormant transcendental
As he
knowledge.
hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam
As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam
and from the devotees,
and from the devotees,
he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord.
becomes fixed in devotional service of the Lord.
Tadarajastamo bhava
Tadarajastamo bhava
kamalobhadayaschaye
Kamalopasdayachai
cheta etarjanavidam
Chaita Itarana Vedam
stitvam sattve prasidati.
Stitam Sarve Prasidhati.
By development of devotional service,
By development of devotional service,
one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance,
one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance,
and thus material lust and avarice are diminished.
and thus material lust and avarice are diminished.
Evam prasana manaso
Evam prasna manas
Bhagavat Bhakti Yogataha
Bhagavat Bhakti Yogata
Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam
Bhagavat Tattva Vijnana
Mukta Sangasya Jayate.
Mukta Sangasya Jayate.
When these impurities are wiped away,
When these impurities are wiped away,
the candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness,
the candidate remains steady in the position of pure goodness,
becomes enlivened by devotional service,
becomes enlivened by devotional service,
and understands the science of God perfectly.
and understands the signs of God perfectly.
Vidyate Hridaya Grantis
Vidhyate Hridaya Grantis
Chidyante Sarvasamsaya
Chidyante Sarva Samshaya
Siyante Chasyakarmani
Chiyante Sachakarmani
Justa Evatmanishware.
Justa Ivatmanishwari.
Thus, Bhakti Yoga severs the hard knot of material affection
Thus the Bhakti Yoga severs the heart of the material
and enables
affection,
one to come at once to the stage of a samsayam samagram,
and enables to come at one to the stage of assumption,
understanding of the supreme absolute truth personality of Godhead.
understanding the supreme absolute truth personality of Godhead.
Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee
Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotees
in Krishna
in
consciousness
Krishna consciousness
can one understand the science of Krishna.
can one understand the science of Krishna.
Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 18, text number 34. Brahmanai Kshatrabandurhi
Brahmane Sapandurhi
Griha Palo Nirupita
Griya Palo Nirutpita
Sakatam Tad Grihe Dvasta
Sakantham Targiye Dvasta
Sabandam Bhoktumarhati
Sabhandam Bhoktum
Arhati.
Arati.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The descendants of the kingly orders are definitely designated as watchdogs, and they must keep themselves at the door. Oh, what grounds can dogs enter the house and claim to dine with the master in the same plate? Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The inexperienced Brahmana boy certainly knew that the king asked for water from his father, and the father did not respond. He tried to explain away his father's inhospitality in an impertinent manner befitting an uncultured boy. He was not at all sorry for the king's not being well received. On the contrary, he justified the wrong act in a way characteristic of the Brahmanas of Kali Yuga. He compared the king to a watchdog. And so it was wrong for the king to enter the home of a Brahmana and ask for water from the same pot. Whoa. The dog is certainly reared by its master, but that does not mean that the dog shall claim to dine and drink from the same pot. This mentality of false prestige is the cause of downfall of the perfect social order. And we can see that in the beginning it was started by the inexperienced son of a Brahmana. As the dog is never allowed to enter within the room and hearth, although it is reared by the master, similarly, according to Shringi, the king had no right to enter the house of Samika Rishi. According to the boy's opinion, the king was on the wrong side and not his father, and thus he justified his silent father. Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavani Ki Jai. So this is very damning for followers of Shringi. And it's implied here that those followers are modern Brahmanas in Kali Yuga. I'm not sure if it refers to every one of them, or most of them, or some of them, but it definitely refers to what's called the downfall of the Brahmana caste in the age of Kali. So, Prabhupada touches on some very, very profound and sensitive points in this purport. He says, the mentality of false prestige is the cause of downfall of the perfect social order. And we can see that in the beginning it was started by the inexperienced son of a Brahmana. So, what did the inexperienced son of a Brahmana do? Well, he acted inappropriately without getting permission from his father, who was acting like his guru, or not getting information or validation of what he was thinking of doing from some spiritual authority or Shiksha and Diksha gurus. He just acted on his own, thinking that whatever reasoning he had was the valid reasoning to punish the king. So this is a perfect example of false prestige, of being puffed up, of being overconfident that everything one may think is valid. That's why Prabhupada says in his letters that the disciples should always ask permission of the spiritual master before they act. That doesn't mean you have to ask the spiritual master permission to go to the toilet. But it means whenever there's some important decision that you're making in your life, you should ask Guru, Shiksha or Diksha Guru, what they think about that decision. So, Yasya Prasada, Bhagavat Prasada. By the mercy of spiritual master, one gets the benediction of Krishna. Without the mercy of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. This is a very important verse, and we sing it every morning. And we should understand what it means. Spiritual life is one of being very careful to always follow Krishna's instructions as given by spiritual masters and acharyas. So here we see that when we don't do that, that's a sign of being overconfident and having this disease of false prestige, which is the cause of downfall, falling down again into the cycle of birth and death, old age and disease. So the cause of downfall of the perfect social order. And we can see that in the beginning it was started by the inexperienced son of a Brahmana. So he was thinking, look, the dog can stand guard outside the door of the master, but he's never allowed to enter within the room and hearth. The hearth is where the family, as we explained yesterday, come together and they cook food, and then they respect the food, and then they have discussions, and there's a passage of culture from the elders to the younger generation. That's the hearth. So, not heart, but hearth, H-E-A-R-T-H. So it says that as the dog is never allowed to enter within the room and hearth, although it is reared by the master, similarly, according to Shringi, the king had no right to enter the house of Samika Rishi. According to the boy's opinion, the king was on the wrong side and not his father, and thus he justified his silent father. Well, when it means it justified his silent father, it means that he operated justice in the name of his father without getting his father's permission. So that means he's not bona fide. He didn't get validation. So this is the problem of being inexperienced. We jump to conclusions too fast when we're inexperienced, and we convince ourselves that those immature decisions are the truth, and then we act and get into a lot of trouble. However, I don't know exactly what was the age of Shringi, but usually a child is not responsible for their acts until they're 14 years old. So it does say here that the boy was going to be excused for the mistake he made because he was young and inexperienced, even though it was a horrible mistake. And Maharaj Pariksit had the power to overcome his Shringi's curse, but he accepted it rather as the mercy of the Lord, knowing that the Lord is the supreme controller and nothing can happen unless the Lord ordains it. Now this is explained even in more detail. Let's explain in more detail. Let's see where it is. Okay, so there are three things that keep us really conditioned to suffer. They are kala, karma, and guna. Kala, which means time. Time is Krishna. Time I am the destroyer of the worlds. Everything is controlled by time. Our life is controlled by time. Our actions are controlled by time. Then there's guna, the modes of material nature, and then there's karma from previous life. So, Prabhupada writes that even if we are able to do something temporarily beneficial, time will see that the good project is frustrated in course of time. The only thing possible to be done is to get rid of eternal time, kala, which is compared to kala sarpa, or the cobra snake, whose bite is always lethal. No one can be saved from the bite of a cobra. The best remedy for getting out of the clutches of the cobra-like kala, or its integrity, the modes of nature. So what does that mean, in its integrity? That means completely. You can completely get rid of the snake bite of the cobra of time forever. And then also get rid of the modes of nature. And the only way to do that, the best remedy, is bhakti yoga, as it is recommended in the Bhagavad Gita 14:26. Mamchayovi bicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunam samatityaitam brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in devotional service and never falls down under any circumstance is at once liberated from the modes of material nature and comes to the position of Brahman, or transcendental position. So, the highest perfectional project of philanthropic activities is to engage everyone in the act of preaching bhakti yoga all over the world, because that alone can save people from the control of Maya, or the material nature represented by kala, karma, and guna, as described above. The Bhagavad Gita 14:26 confirms this definitely. Okay, so we see this is a serious statement. It's actually meant to help us. Sometimes we receive a warning, don't you dare do this again. Well, if a person is intelligent, they'll take the warning. Just like if the police stop you and say, put your hands up where I can see them, don't move. Now lay down very slowly with your arms extended, and you don't listen, you know what they do? They can shoot you and kill you if you don't listen. And that's happening every day in this country. People think, well, I don't have to listen to what they say. Or if they put their hand in their pocket as if they're going to pull a gun out, or if they go to their car and try and stick their hand through the window to grab something, or they try and open their trunk. The police don't know what they're going to grab. It could be a gun, it could be a knife. And if they show it, then immediately they shoot. And every day people are dying like that, because before people would listen to what the police say. Nowadays there are some people, not everybody, who don't listen to what they say, and they get killed. So in the same way, if we don't listen to what Krishna says, guess what happens? We can get killed. We can be forced to take birth again. That's worse than just being killed. Because people think, well, if I'm killed, then, it's all over. No way. It's only beginning at that point. Because you have to start all over again, but this time it could be with a tail and 4 legs. Or it could be a caterpillar with 1,000 legs. Or it could be a worm and stool. So why take such a chance? So Prabhupada says also about this. He says, we must know for certain that the particular position in which we are now set up is an arrangement of the Supreme Will, meaning Krishna, in terms of our own acts in the past. The Supreme Lord is present as the localized Paramatma in the heart of every living being. And it is said in the Bhagavad Gita 13:23, and therefore he knows everything of our activities in every stage of our lives. Upadasthana Martha cha Bharta Bhokta Maheswara Paramatmiti chapi Yukte Dehesmin Purukshak Puran. It's 13:23. Let me just check that to make sure. 13:23. Yes. And that says that yet in this body there is another transcendental enjoyer who is the Lord, the Supreme Proprietor, who exists as the overseer and permitter, and who is known as the Super Soul. So, therefore, he rewards the reactions of our actions by placing us in some particular place. A rich man gets his son born with a silver spoon in his mouth, but the child who came as the rich man's son deserves such a place, and therefore he is placed there by the will of the Lord. And at a particular moment when the child has to be removed from that place, he is also carried by the will of the Supreme, even if the child or the father does not wish to be separated from the happy relation. The same thing happens in the case of a poor man also. Neither rich man nor poor man has any control over such meetings or separations of living beings. The example of a player and his playthings should not be misunderstood. That's in the verse. As a player sets up and disperses his playthings according to his own sweet will, so the supreme will of the Lord brings men together and separates them. The example of a player and his playthings should not be misunderstood. One may argue that since the Lord is bound to award the reactionary results of our own actions, the example of a player cannot be applied. But it is not so. We must always remember that the Lord is the supreme will, and he is not bound by any law. Generally, the law of karma is that one is awarded the result of one's own actions. But in special cases, by the will of the Lord, such resultant actions are changed also. But this change can be effected only by the will of the Lord. This change can be effected by the will of the Lord only, and no other. Therefore, the example of the player cited in this verse is quite appropriate, for the Supreme Will is absolutely free to do whatever he likes, and because he is all perfect, there is no mistake in any of his actions or reactions. These changes of resultant actions are especially rendered by the Lord when a pure devotee is involved. It is assured in the Bhagavad Gita 9:30 and 9:31 that the Lord saves a pure devotee who has surrendered unto him without reservation from all sorts of reactions of sins. And there's no doubt about this. There are hundreds of examples of reactions changed by the Lord in the history of the world. If the Lord is able to change the reactions of one's past deeds, then certainly he is not himself bound by any action or reaction of his own deeds. He is perfect and transcendental. Wow, now this is an amazing statement by Srila Prabhupada that we should take very, very seriously, because it means that everybody has a chance to get free from the clutches of Maya, from the influence of Kala, Karma, and Guna. These three things are oppressing us. And Krishna can do anything he wants. He's not controlled. He's not bound by any law, by any custom or habit or anything like that. He's completely independent. So the only thing that Krishna gives special attention to, he gives attention to everyone. He's supplying food right now to demons as well as devotees and everyone in between. But he gives special attention to his devotees, which is normal. If your house was on fire and your neighbor's kid and your kid are in the house, if you run into the house, who would you look for first? Who would you look for? Yeah, look for your kids first. So in the same way, it's normal that Krishna gives special attention to his devotee. Although he's equal to everyone, but yet he has a special feeling for his devotee. Why? Because the devotee is completely surrendered to him. And as we discussed before, the devotee is totally, it does not consider himself or herself independent. It considers that they are completely dependent on the mercy of the Lord, and they act like that. For example, the demons, Prabhupada says, the whole material world is moving on this false attempt of becoming independent of the laws of nature. What are the laws of nature? Kala, Karma, and Guna. Now, how are you going to become free of these things? That everyone, every living entity, from the microbe to Brahma, is controlled by them. Right? When you go into higher planets, the control might be a little bit less because of the mode of goodness. But still, even Brahma is subject to death. See? So everyone is controlled by this. The only way to get out of this horrible control is by pure devotional service. So Prabhupada says, the whole material world is moving on this false attempt of becoming independent of the laws of nature. What do you think science is all about? Science, modern science, is all about trying to get independent from the laws of nature. Don't believe in God. Don't believe that everything is predetermined or anything like that. You have karma from a previous life. There was no previous life. There's only one life, and when you die, it's all over. But while you're living, we must control nature, because that's also interfering with our sense gratification. Yeah. But are they succeeding? Like, for example, they have so many birth control techniques. Is the population of the world going down, or is it increasing? It's increasing. They have so many medicines and vaccinations and therapies, and there's a bunch of karma and this thing and that thing, natural therapies, artificial therapies, everything. Has it stopped people from dying? No way. People are dying every day. See? So they think they can control nature through science. No, you can't. You can't control nature. You can't control the kala and guna and karma. I have a friend of mine. He has a company, and it's he makes specialized probiotics according to your body. And in order to qualify, you have to send him your stool. You have to poop in some jar and send it to his company, and they analyze your stool. Well, that's what dogs do, don't they? When a dog meets another dog, what do? they start smelling the butt of the other dog, and the other dog smells the butt of the first dog. They're analyzing the stool to see where you're at, where the dog is at. So, yeah, and then once they analyze your stool, then they say, well, you need, so much acidophilus and so much bifidus, and so on. They're like, 30,000 probiotics. Right? So they make a special blend specifically for what they read from your stool. And it costs $1,500 a month for the rest of your life to keep you alive so you don't die. Now, do you believe it? Do you think someone can keep you alive forever for $1,500 a month? That's a bunch of nonsense. Yeah, maybe your health will be a little bit better, but it's not going to stop you from dying. And their motto is that death is optional. In other words, I mean, if you want to die, okay, that's your choice. But if you don't want to die, give us $1,500 a month for the rest of your life, and we'll keep analyzing your stool. That's comforting, isn't it? You have someone to analyze your stool every month. The whole thing is nonsense. But yet, people want to control nature. So that's what Prabhupada says. The whole material world is moving on this false attempt of becoming independent of the laws of nature. Beginning from Ravana, who wanted to prepare a direct staircase to the planets of heaven, down to the present age, they are trying to overcome the laws of nature. They are trying now to approach distant planetary systems by electronic mechanical power. But the highest goal of human civilization is to work hard under the guidance of the Lord and become completely dependent on Him. Wait a minute. This is the complete opposite of what they're talking about. They're saying we can become independent, right? But he's saying the solution to the whole thing, the whole problem is birth and death and sickness and old age, is to become completely dependent on the Lord. The highest achievement of perfect civilization is to work with valor, meaning courage and energy, but at the same time depend completely on the Lord. This is a motto that we should put this up on the wall. Okay, Prabhu, it's your service. Put this one up on the wall. This is Bhagavad Gita 1.8.37. 1.8.37. And he says, the highest goal of human civilization. Every time we put one of these things up on the wall, somebody takes it down, right? But maybe we should put it up so high that they can't reach it. Anyway, you should make not more than one copy. So every time they take it down, you put it back up again, all right? The highest goal of human civilization is to work hard under the guidance of the Lord, meaning the Lord and His representatives like Sikhs and Diksha Gurus, and become completely dependent on Him. The Pandavas were the ideal executors of the standard of civilization. They were the example, and they were the ones who put it into effect. That is, what? What are we talking about? Depending completely on the Lord. He calls this the standard of civilization. Those who are trying to become independent are not civilized. They're acting like lower than animals, because the animals are controlled and they're dependent on the Lord. But these people are lower than that. Undoubtedly, they were completely dependent on the goodwill of Lord Shri Krishna, but they were not idle parasites of the Lord. In other words, they're not lazy bums. They worked hard, but they depended completely on the Lord. They were all highly qualified both by personal character and by physical activities. Still, they always looked for the mercy of the Lord because they knew that every living being is dependent by constitutional position. Now, we explained what that means. Constitutional position. That's the definition of what you can do and what you cannot do. It's your eternal position. You can't change it. We are all dependent on the Lord. We are all we can never be equal to or greater than the Lord. Our constitutional position is to listen to the instructions of Krishna, and those same instructions come through Parampara to Siksha and Diksha Gurus today. That same instruction. What is that? Sarvadharmam purityaja mamekam saranam raja aham tvam sarvapapebhyo mokshisyami ma suchaha. Krishna is promising you that if you always engage in this service and never failingly, then you become free from your previous karma. And you have nothing to fear, nothing to doubt, nothing to hesitate for. And manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyajimam namaskru mam evaisasi satyam te pratijane priyosime. You become very dear to Krishna, or we become very dear to Krishna, if we are always thinking of him, manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji, worshipping him, mam evaisasi satya, and always manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji, become his devotee, worship him, namaskuru, and offer all our homage and respect and love to him. If we do this, then we become free. He will protect us from our previous karma, and therefore we become dear to him. So, this is the standard of civilization. Undoubtedly, the Pandavas, completely dependent on the goodwill of Lord Sri Krishna, but they were not idle parasites of the Lord. They were all highly qualified, both by personal character and by physical activities. Still, they always looked for the mercy of the Lord because they knew that every living being is dependent by constitutional position. The perfection of life is therefore to become dependent on the will of the Lord instead of becoming falsely independent in the material world. Those who try to become falsely independent of the Lord are called anatta, or without any guardian, whereas those who are completely dependent on the will of the Lord are called sanata, or those having someone to protect them. Therefore, we must try to be sanata so that we can always be protected by the unfavorable condition of material existence. By the deluding power of the external material nature, we forget that the material condition of life is the most undesirable perplexity or confusion. The Bhagavad Gita therefore directs us in 7.19 that after many, many births, one fortunate person becomes aware of the fact that Vasudeva is all in all, or Krishna is all in all, and that the best way of leading one's life is to surrender unto him completely. That is the sign of a Mahatma. But you understand, surrendering completely doesn't mean you become, what is the word Prabhupada uses, an idle parasite. No. You have to be active. And what is the best activity? Is to spread the knowledge of Bhakti Yoga all over the world. Right? You have to be active. If you can't do it all over the world, you do it in your neighborhood. If you can't do it in your neighborhood, you do it in your family. If you can't even do that, then you do it to yourself. Right? Maybe you can train your dog. Who knows? Dogs sometimes listen. Right? So, by the deluding power of the external material nature, we forget that the material condition of life is the most undesirable perplexity. The Bhagavad Gita therefore directs us, 7.19, that after many, many births, one fortunate person becomes aware of the fact that Vasudeva is all in all, and that the best way of leading one's life is to surrender unto him completely. That is the sign of a Mahatma. All the members of the Pandava family were Mahatmas in household life. Oh, okay, that means you can become a Mahatma even in being a householder, being a Grihastha. Maharaj Yudhisthira was the head of the Mahatmas, and Queen Kunti Devi was the mother. The lessons of the Bhagavad Gita and all the Puranas, specifically the Bhagavata Purana or Srimad Bhagavatam, are therefore inevitably connected with the history of the Pandava Mahatmas. For them, separation from the Lord was just like the separation of a fish from water. Srimati Kunti Devi therefore felt such separation like a thunderbolt, and the whole prayer of the queen is to try to persuade the Lord to stay with them. After the battle of Kurukshetra, although the inimical kings were killed, their sons and grandsons were still there to deal with the Pandavas. It is not only the Pandavas who were put into the condition of enmity, but all of us are always in such a condition. And the best way of living is to become completely dependent on the will of the Lord and thereby overcome all difficulties of material existence. Hey, 1:8:37. That's enough information there to free any of us from all problems of material life. And how is it that we're not taking it? Because we've been conditioned to think that science is going to save us, that the vaccine is going to save you, that science will solve the riddle of death, that death will be optional. All this is nonsense. It's all about being independent. But our constitutional position is to be dependent. So why should we submit ourselves to this type of information, giving us false hope that we'll be independent? If we follow the rules and regulations of spiritual life and are completely dependent on Krishna, guess what? Krishna promises to protect you. Now, that doesn't mean we go up to the zoo and we go up to the cage of the lion and climb into it and say, open your mouth. I'm going to stick my head in your mouth so that I can prove to everyone that Krishna's going to protect me. No. That would be foolish, right? But some people do that. They say, well, Krishna's going to protect me. I can do anything. And I can go step outside on the wing of the airplane while it's flying at 30,000 feet and nothing's going to happen to me. That's a bunch of nonsense, you see. But if we follow the rules and regulations, and the rules and regulations doesn't say walk out on the wing of the airplane. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say stick your head in the mouth of the lion. It doesn't say. It says get up early every day. Come to Mangala Aarti. Perform Tulsi Aarti. Listen to the class. Have darshan of the deities. Take the prasadam and respect it. And now, do whatever else you have to do to maintain yourself. But then come back again at night, do the same thing. And then go to bed early and then start all over the next day. You have to follow sadhana bhakti. That's what your duty is. You don't have to put your head into the mouth of the lion. You don't have to walk out on the wing of the Boeing 777. What you have to do, though, is what you promised to do. Follow the regulative principles, chant minimum 16 good rounds a day, and follow all the regulative principles. So, this is very simple. Very simple. And then we become sanata, under the protection of the Lord. But if we don't do it, then we are anatta, without a guardian, without a protector. We're out in La La Land. And anything can happen in La La Land. You ever been in La La Land, Prabhu? No? I've been there. I don't want to go back. Believe me. Okay, we'll stop right there. Are there any questions? Yeah, come up to the microphone. Huh?
So Maharaj, you explained in this verse about the complete dependent on
the Lord.
On the Lord. So,
like the Pandavas.
Sorry?
Like the Pandavas. You see, there's an example of it. The Pandavas were completely dependent on the Lord.
Okay. So, for the Grahasthas, I mean, yes, but for the Grahasthas doing...
Pandavas were Mahatma Grahasthas. That means you can be a Mahatma Grahastha also. All you have to do is, Krishna, you are everything for me. And whatever you say, that's what I'm going to do. And I can understand what you're saying by referring to Shiksha and Diksha Gurus. I'm not going to imagine that you just told me to stab my wife in my dream. That's not what I'm going to do. Well, maybe I might do it, but if the Shiksha and Diksha Guru says that's valid. But believe me, they're not going to say that.
Yeah, so in short, like follow the regulative principles strictly means...
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah. No, but those regulative principles, let me tell you what the regulative principles are. Now, I'm not going to say no meat eating and gambling. Listen to what Krishna says the regulative principles are. He says, Prasade sarvadukanam hanir asyo pajayate prasana chetaso hiyasu buddhi parya vatistate. He says, I'm sorry, we're going to read one verse before that first. Raga dvesa vimuktais tu vishayan indriyascharan atmavaistya videyatma prasadam adigachati. But a person free from all attachment and aversion or hatred, and able to control his senses through regulative principles of freedom, can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord. So the regulative principles are real swaraj. Freedom. You're free. You're free from what? Kala, karma, and guna. Who's not free of kala, karma, and guna? People who don't follow the regulative principles. Don't chant Hare Krishna. Anything they do, it's going to be defeated. But you follow the regulative principles of freedom. The Sanskrit is Raga dvesa vimuktaistu. So, you're free from attachment and detachment. And you're free from sense objects. And you're able to control the senses, bring them under control, including the mind, by following the regulated principles of freedom. Then you get prasadam. Prasadam adigachati. You get the mercy of the Lord. There it is. Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, verse 64. This is your verse. Then you become Mahatma Grihasta. Any other question? Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
You want to be Mahatma Grihasta. There you go.
In the
2nd chapter, 64th verse, Bhagavad Gita.
So in the complete independence, most of the time in Grihasthashram, basically, both husband and wife, is it practical to do that? Because based on the examples what we have, most of the saints or whoever is like, either their wife is not able to reach to the goal of complete independence, but most of the saints may reach it. It might be because of their attachment to the family, or if both, I haven't seen, at least, I don't know any example of both husband and wife, they reached to that.
Wait a minute. Pandavas were all married. They were all married men. They were not sannyasis. They were all married. They all had wives.
Yeah, they have wives.
Hey, Krishna has many wives.
No, Krishna is
And he's got many girlfriends also.
I'm talking about the normal people.
Well, no, Pandavas are normal people like you and me in the sense that they're married, they have responsibilities, they have to pay taxes, or they exact taxes. You know, I mean, they're just like us. They eat, they sleep, they mate, and they defend it. So you can do it. Well, you have Tukaram. He's a grihastha.
Yeah, but his wife didn't reach to that, right? That's what my question.
No, you have to understand. She wasn't able to go back when he went back, but because he went back, she's also liberated. She had to first, feel contrite for having, scolded her husband so many times and tried to discourage him, but he was never discouraged. She couldn't go back at that point, but because he's liberated, she'll be liberated also. Just like Dhruva Maharaj, before the same thing happened. Lord Vishnu came, Garuda, to take him back to Godhead, and Dhruva Maharaj, before he stepped onto the Vimana, he said, "Oh my Lord," he said, "what about my mom?" He said, "I can't. She should come back." And the Lord smiled and said, "She's already on her way back." You understand? So if you get liberated, your wife will get liberated. Or if she gets liberated, you'll get liberated.
As long as you are playing a supporting role to other partner.
It doesn't matter, supporting, not supporting. It doesn't matter. You see, what's stronger, the holy name or not supporting? No, the holy name is stronger. So you just keep chanting Hare Krishna, you follow yourself, and then your wife will follow the leader. you don't follow, then then the wife will not follow. You just do the right thing, and you'll see everything falls into place. Krishna will protect you.
Mhm.
Protect everyone, your wife, your children, your relatives, everybody. If you get liberated, 21 generations of your family are liberated automatically. So our real problem in life is, do we want to be liberated? Do we want to be free? Do we want Swaraj? No more Kala, Karma, and Guna. Well, then just engage in devotional service. And the best devotional service, once you're really fixed up, is explained by Krishna in the 18th chapter. He says, "There's no one dearer to me than the one who teaches this Bhagavad Gita to others." Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter. Nachatasman anusyesu kaschid me kriyat pritama. Bhavita nachame tasmad anya priyataro bhuvi. There's no servant in this world more dear to me than he. Who's he? He who explains this Bhagavad Gita, called the Supreme Secret, to others, to devotees, and pure devotional service. There's no one dearer to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. So this is what we're trying to learn here in this temple. We should be completely dependent on Krishna, completely dedicated to disseminating the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita to all others that we meet. And besides the fact that we're working, besides the fact we're maintaining family, besides the fact we have to educate our kids, but we can do it because the Pandavas did it, and they were also grihastas. We can't be an idle parasite. We have to be active. And what is our motto? Our motto is, and you can say this every day, just like what are they? The RSS. Every day they pay allegiance to the flag of India, and they chant Vande Mataram, right? But every day we should, of course, chant Hare Krishna and repeat our motto. What is our motto? Now we have a motto. Huh? There you go. You see, that's the highest goal of life. So we should repeat it every day. Okay? Besides repeating the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Where is it? 1 8, what is it?
1837.
Yeah, 1837, that's right. Yeah, it got mixed up there. 1837. Where did I put that? 1837. I lost my place. Oh, there it is. Okay. Yes, 1837. We want to become Sanata. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So all the parents of kids who come to the class this morning, will be at 9 o'clock. I'm going to say something very interesting. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet. So all the parents should be listening today if your kids are coming to the class. Haribol. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.